Hi, welcome to the news headlines at this hour. Mali's President Ibrahim Boubacar Keita has resigned after being detained by soldiers on Tuesday. In a televised address, Mr. Keita said he was also dissolving the government and parliament. I want no blood to be spilled to keep me in power, he added. It comes hour after he and Prime Minister Boubou Cisse was taken to a military camp near the capital Bamako, drawing condemnation from regional powers and France. If today certain elements of our armed forces want this to end through their intervention, do I really have a choice, said Mr. Keita. I hold no hatred towards anyone. My love for my country does not allow me, he added. May God save us. Sustaining energy through 4 days of a political convention is never easy. It's even more challenging during this, the first virtual convention. On the second night of the Democratic National Convention, party leaders tried to blend its past with its future. Here are key takeaways from the night 2, Democrats displaying big tent. Joe Biden, who was formally nominated on Tuesday night in a virtual roll calls of states, doesn't shy away from the obvious. He's a 77-year-old white man leading a party that celebrates its racial and ethnic diversity and gets a majority of its votes from women. He has at times offered himself as a bridge to bring together that coalition, calling himself a transitional figure for the party and the country. A senior UN official warned on Tuesday that the war-torn Yemen is sliding towards famine as the coronavirus spreads and its economy implodes. All amid a funding crisis that is forcing the United Nations to make deeper aid cuts, including stopping treatment for 250,000 severely malnourished children. Those children and many other people will die without your help, Assistant Secretary General for Humanitarian Affairs Ramesh Ragasingham told the UN Security Council. They feel like they've been punished unfairly by a world that promised to keep, but it is now turning its back. He said the UN has received just 21% of its $2.4 billion humanitarian appeal for 2020. Soldiers in Mali have detained the country's president as well as the prime minister and other top officials in an apparent coup attempt. President Ibrahim Boubacar Keita and Prime Minister Boubou Cisse are being held at a military camp near the capital Bamako. Earlier, the mutinying soldiers took control of the Keti camp. There has been anger among troops about pay and over a continuing conflict with jihadists, as well as widespread discontent with President Keita. Tuesday's mutiny and arrest have sparked international condemnation. A report by the Senate Intelligence Committee provides a treasure trove of details about Donald Trump's relationship with Moscow and says that the Russian national who worked closely with Trump's presidential campaign in 2016 was a career intelligence officer. The bipartisan report runs to nearly 1,000 pages and goes further. Last year, investigation into Russia's election interference by Special Prosecutor Robert Mueller. It lays out a stunning web of contacts between Trump, his top election aides, and Russian government officials in the months leading up to the 2016 election. A quarter-century after Israel's spies and Canadian activist and a Syrian rabbi smuggled 9 rare medieval Jewish manuscripts out of Damascus, an Israeli court decided the books will remain under the National Library's custodianship for their preservation. The decision ends a protracted legal battle over the ownership of the Damascus Crown's illuminated Bibles written on parchment that belonged to the Syrian capital's Jewish community for centuries until they were secreted for Israel in the 1990s. The Jerusalem District Court ruled on Monday the books were a treasure of the Jewish people that had historic, religious, and national importance and must be preserved. The best way to do so would be to keep them at the National Library under a public trust, it ruled. During her career teaching at the Communist Party's top academy, Kaishia cheered on signs that China's leaders might ease their political grip, making her an uncommonly prominent voice for democratic change near the heart of the party. Now Kai has turned her back to such hopes and the party has turned against her. She has become the latest intellectual punished for challenging the third-line policies of the current leader, Xi Jinping. The Central Party School in Beijing, where Kai taught for 15 years until 2012, announced on Monday that she has been expelled from the Communist Party after she denounced both the party and Xi in her recent speeches and essays. The fate of a fragile 2015 nuclear deal between Iran and world powers hinges on the result of the US presidential election in November. Not a planned US bid this week to trigger a return of all US sanctions on Tehran, said several Iranian officials. When Iran agreed to sanctions relief in return from curbs on its nuclear program, Tehran warned that it would be no longer stick to the deal if any of the parties sparked a so-called snapback of sanctions at the UN Security Council. A backstop included in accord in case Iran stops complying. Egypt's parliament on Tuesday approved a maritime deal setting the country's Mediterranean Sea boundary with Greece and democratic an exclusive economic zone for oil and gas drilling rights, the state-run news agency reported. The deal signed earlier this month angered Turkey, which vowed to resume its disputed oil and gas exploration in the eastern Mediterranean. The Egyptian-Greek move was widely seen as a response to a disputed agreement between Turkey and Libya's Tripoli-based administration that spiked tensions in the East Mediterranean region. The Turkey-Libya deal was widely criticized by Egypt, Cyprus, and Greece and as an infringement on the economic rights in the oil-rich sea. The European Union says it is a violation of international law that threatens stability in the region. California is grappling with triple-digit temperatures, a freak lightning storm in the Bay Area, and high winds, all of which are contributing to wildlife breakout throughout the state on Saturday. At least one rare fire tornado in Luzerne County north of Lake Tahoe. The National Weather Service in Reno issued a first-ever fire tornado warning on Saturday. A fire tornado is a rare phenomenon formed when strong winds, extreme heat, and rough terrain combine, fueled by gas from burning vegetation. A UN-backed tribunal on Thursday convicted one member of the Hezbollah militant group and acquitted 3 others of involvement in the assassination of former Lebanese Prime Minister Rafik Hariri 15 years ago. The Special Tribunal for Lebanon said Salim Ayyash was guilty as a co-conspirator for 5 charges linked to his involvement in a suicide truck bombing. Hariri and 21 others were killed and 226 were wounded in a huge blast outside the seaside hotel in Beirut on February 14, 2005. However, after years-long investigation and trial, 3 other Hezbollah members were acquitted of all charges that they also were involved in the killing of Hariri, which sent shockwaves through the Middle East. Agreement on a new deal for more emergency pandemic spending is within reach if democratic leaders are willing to be reasonable, U.S. Treasury Secretary Steven Mnuchin said on Tuesday. That deal would include funding for the embattled US Postal Service, which the sides already agreed on, Mnuchin said. There's a deal to do here if the Democrats want to be reasonable. I am concerned about the politics in all this, he added, noting that he had continued to have discussions with legislatures on funding to help businesses and workers hurt by COVID-19 shutdowns. Previous. Senator Kamala Harris is well aware of her groundbreaking status. The new Democratic vice presidential pick has selected Pioneer as a Secret Service code name on Monday ahead of the first night of the Democratic National Convention. Harris was quickly put under Secret Service protection last week after former Vice President Joe Biden chose her as his presidential running mate. She picked her new code name off a list the White House Communications Agency had approved. Biden, meanwhile, will keep his code name from the Obama administration, which was Celtic, and Jill Biden will keep hers, which was Capri. CNN's law enforcement analyst Jonathan Wackrow, former Secret Service agent, said protectees have often taken on the persona of the call sign that they had selected. Former President Barack Obama's renegade is a great example. Now he went against the establishment in some kind of the thing that he had done. Harris has already started fulfilling her name. She is the first black woman nominated to be the vice president. And if elected, she will be the first woman, Indian, American, and black vice president in US history. Previous. A clash between Syrian forces and US troops reportedly left at least one Syrian dead on Monday, a rare fatal confrontation on a battlefield confused by a surplus of foreign intervening forces in the protracted civil war. The US-led military coalition in Syria denied reports that an American service member was wounded in the incident near a Syrian air base and that the coalition has carried out an airstrike during the clash. An independent war monitoring organization and Syrian state media spoke only of Syrian casualties. The incident occurred Monday south of Qamishli, a city in the northern Syria near the Turkish border, where Syrian troops refused to allow a US patrol to cross a checkpoint near Qamishli air base. According to Syrian regime and an independent Syrian Observatory for Human Rights war monitoring group. This is Jyoti reporting for Our Voice. Previous.